Hi, welcome. My name is Angelique, and today I am talking about Moon and Libra as it relates to astrology. And I like to use mythology and symbolism, the four elements, to really uncover and help understand astrology in the natal placement. So it's Moon and Libra today. So you can have that placement, or you can just be curious or a student of astrology and see what it's all about. If it's your first time listening, I've been a student of astrology for over 30 years, and I have a background in psychology, mental health, and counseling. So I really like to dive deep. I want to uncover things, not just about our psyche, but want to learn about our physicality, our emotions, our relationships. And you can do all that through astrology. It's not just for prediction, it's a way that we can use it as a tool to help us grow, to find what works for us, self care, balance in our life. So we'll be focusing on Libra today, and I like to start with the mythology of the sign and see how it relates to the planet. Now, I'm not going to touch on too much the background of the mythology here. That's more the personality, which you can find in episodes I've done on the sun. So, Sun and Libra could be worth listening to if you want to hear more about the mythology ascribed to Libra. But I'm going to touch on it as it relates to emotions because the moon rules emotions, particularly, but also the home, security, childhood. So, looking at how mythology can really relate to humanity in that way, what can we find? So, we're looking at Libra. The planet that rules Libra is Venus. And Libra, I'm sorry, Venus was named after the Roman goddess Venus. And Venus, as we typically know her, is the goddess of beauty and love and charm. So when we bring that to the emotional realm, it's going to give our emotions a flair of being very soft and harmonious. So the emotions that are going to come about with someone like Venus is either going to be very relaxed and balanced and at peace because that's what Venus wanted to cultivate. Venus liked harmony, but because of that need to kind of have this grace, this social grace, this charm, to not have anything appear kind of rough or unbalanced, the emotions with Venus are going to never really be super direct. They're never going to be very harsh or perceived as negative, which we know is not always great because emotions are going to take on a more negative or a messy tone. That's just what emotions are. So they're not always going to be happy and harmonious. So we get some kind of friction here, but also this betrayal of self can come up with the mythology around Venus because if you are always looking for charm and balance and harmony, if you do feel a more negative emotion like sadness or even anger, this can be repressed, this can be pushed aside because emoting anger or sadness doesn't always look beautiful. It doesn't always seem charming, and it can create conflict if you react to your emotions, especially if someone did something. And so this is where it gets kind of tricky. It's not a bad placement. There's no bad placements. It's just sometimes it's kind of challenging or just friction, like we said. So Venus energy is going to emote in the way that is most balanced and charming and beautiful to that person, that situation. So the emotions are going to stay more on the surface sometimes. So even if emotions are felt that are stronger or more negative, they can be hidden and sidestepped. And even someone might have these emotions, these feelings, but they might not want to it they might not want to engage in it when they have this energy in this placement, because it could create conflict. It could create separation, like in a partnership. And now looking at the symbolism and the elements ascribed to Libra, we have that energy of Venus, but it's in an air energy, an air element. So Libra is related to thoughts and ideas and communication. So it's going to give the emotions, it's going to give it a nice flowing feel, because the moon is in the water element. So it does like to flow, and air can flow with water too, as we know. So if you're outside and there's water and air, there's not going to be too much conflict. Both of these elements, air and water, like to kind of flow and not be extremely direct and forceful. So they have a nice combination. And if we're going to look at science, air and water together can make rain, they can make clouds, but they also can make some storms. And so it might not feel like it's doing much damage, but it can, going on for a long period of time can. So let's say there's a rainstorm and maybe it goes on for 10 or 15 minutes. That's usually not too bad. But if it's been raining for a day, that can really make flooding possible. It can really drench things. And so, what we have here, and I relate to this, is that air and water together, like here, like Moon and Libra, is going to be pleasant most of the time. The emotions are going to come off pleasant, they're going to come off harmonious. Relationships are going to feel emotionally uh, compassionate and connected. It's going to be easier. But however, that deepness that needs to come through, that conflict, all relationships do need conflict if they're going to grow. That's the kind of the only way to grow here on earth, is we need a little tension, we need a little friction. Even in plants, it's a process of budding on a plant, is there's friction. So we need that, and this placement can make it difficult for someone who has it to engage in that conflict, because it can feel very disharmonious. It can feel very uncomfortable, because they want to stay in that light, like fluffy clouds. Let's think of fluffy clouds. That's, you can't really grasp a cloud, but you can look at it. There's a distance here, and that's where people who have this placement like to be emotionally. That's a very comfortable zone. But to have long lasting relationships that grow and thrive, we do need a little conflict. So, close relationships can be easy to come by when you have this placement, but it can be harder to maintain, especially if someone has a different communication style, they express emotions in a different way. Either they don't like a lot of surfacey talk, flirting, if it's romantic. If it's not romantic, maybe more like social engagement. Maybe they don't like that. It can be harder for you to connect for them. Or if they only want to do deep, direct talk and nothing really fun or light, it can be hard for you to connect to. But it can also be very easy for people with Moon and Libra to connect to other people. And that can even be too much connection, which would lead to a codependent emotional connection with other people. And that's because Libra really likes balance, likes harmony, likes having a counterpart. So whether that's a romantic partnership, if it's a friendship, a family member, someone that you have that balance. They like to have a close partnership or another person a lot. But because you can really like doing things in tandem with other people so much, there can be a sense of losing yourself or not having your own opinions and emotions, or just can be muddled, can be tied together too much. So that is just something to look out for. So, some emotions that come up when we think of Moon and Libra are warm, connected, blissful, relaxed, but there can also be ambivalence, rejection felt a lot, and there could also be some passive aggression because, like I said before, don't this moon in Libra can feel very uncomfortable being direct. So if you are upset or angry with someone or a situation, it's very often someone with moon in Libra might take it out in a passive aggressive tone. Now, when it comes to the inner child, someone with moon in Libra as a child might have experienced caregivers or parents that brought a lot of disharmony or imbalance into the home. So, this could have been verbal conflict, it could have been destructive conflict, aggression, or it just could have been being too passive to the point that maybe fighting or things that were unfair were going on for a very long time. The moon and Libra child might also have experienced bullying or targeted or something that happened in the childhood or in the home that made them feel uh, imbalanced or felt that there wasn't a lot of harmony. The other end of the spectrum could be that someone with moon in Libra might have had parents or caregivers that overly focused on superficial standards. So maybe looking great, presenting great, having good grades, maybe having a flourishing social life or doing extracurricular activities, but maybe not cultivating any deeper or meaningful relationships, especially between family members. But you can heal this. Inner child healing is something lifelong. And when you have moon in Libra, you really want to get back to a place where you are experiencing harmony more, especially as it relates to your emotions and your home. So this can be entering into harmonious relationships, partnerships, cultivating that harmony, which is, yes, being social and charming and getting friends or partners, but also cultivating harmony also means entering into conflict, being open and honest about things so it can go back to a state of calm or neutrality or fun. So that is inner work too. I always recommend people with Libra placements to do any type of therapy, coaching with someone else because of that harmony, that need to have a close partnership. It can be sometimes easier and more motivating to work on anything that you need to work on with someone else. So, a partnership, so to speak. So, just a recommendation, but otherwise, it's getting to a place where you feel safe and comfortable with other people to uh, just clear the air, like just talk about what's going on, to be open and honest and more direct, because that can bring in more harmony. The more that you are ignoring a feeling, resentment can grow, it can create distance in relationships, and that's not what you want, especially Moon and Libra. Some other things that can help are joining art, poetry, writing, music. These are all things that are really helpful and healing done by yourself, but also doing it in partnerships or pairs can be very healing. So maybe grabbing paints and having your friend or your partner or your parent do creating art side by side together, listening to music together, going to concerts with a friend or a partner. So, engaging in the arts in some way can be very healing for your inner child. All right, and so that is Moon in Libra. If you have this placement and you'd like to share how this came up for you, you can leave a comment below. I would love that and appreciate it. But otherwise, thank you again for listening and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye.